Hi everybody, welcome to Vanessa's Van Life Journey. How are you guys doing today? I was just live trying to talk to you guys about how I stay warm in my van in the wintertime. I just returned to Houston, and Houston is going through a Arctic freeze, and it got down to 19 degrees the other night. When I first got to Houston, I think it was like 29 degrees. And it was really freezing cold. I had not had a chance to prepare my van because I had just got into town and I had all kind of stuff up in here. So it was pretty cold. The first night I only had this blanket and two blankets like this, and I didn't sleep too well because I was freezing cold. I do not like the winter. I do not like the cold weather. I prefer the hot summer to the cold. I prefer to sweat than to freeze, you guys. So the next day I was like, ooh-wee, I got to do something because I need to get to my stove because I don't want to freeze my butt off tonight. So I moved stuff around in my van so I could get to my stove. And I know a lot of you guys are suggesting that I get an electric blanket. Some of you are suggesting that I get a Mr. Buddy heater. But I'm going to tell you how I stay warm in the winter time, in the winter months. Number one, I usually have two comforters like this, and usually doubling up those two comforters, folding it over and getting in the middle of one of them like a sleeping bag to keep the air from coming on my back. I do that, and then I take the other one, and sometimes I double that over. I make sure I sleep in warm, in a couple of pairs of socks, but some warm socks with some fur on the inside. And I also usually sleep in a hat, and I also usually sleep with some warm pajamas. So I do have some winter warm pajamas that I sleep in, and that usually is enough. Like in 30-degree weather, that usually is enough. But when I came to Houston this time, I think that's the lowest temperatures that I was confronted with, 29 and 19 degrees. So I also had to turn on my stove. I do have a stove in my van, you guys, and that is my heat source. I don't need a Mr. Buddy heater. I don't need those little propane bottles. Cost more than it takes to fill up my big propane bottle. And in Houston, it only takes me $11. I went to go fill my propane up yesterday, and they went up $1. So now it's $12 to fill up my big propane tank, opposed to buying those little small bottles of propane over and over again. So the Mr. Buddy heater is not cost effective for me, and also I already have a stove, so I don't have to invest in spending money on a heater when I already have a heat source. That's one thing I like about having a stove in my vehicle, is that I have a heat source already. And so a lot of you guys are suggesting that I get an electric blanket. Even though I have solar in my van, an electric blanket is not something that's also sufficient because it's going to pull a lot of power and a lot of juice. I need my power and my juice for my refrigerator, and so an electric blanket, unless I'm somewhere where I'm connected to sheer power, is not going to be efficient for me. So the way that I heat my van up and I stay warm in my van is with a lot of blankets, a lot of clothing, warm attire for the winter, a hat, some gloves, some socks, and lots of blankets to sleep in at night. Once you go to bed at night, you guys, the rest of the place don't necessarily need to be warm because you're under covers. I stick my head under the cover and I'm warm. As long as I'm warm under the covers, it doesn't matter what the temperature of the rest of the room is, because I have on enough clothes to stay warm and enough blankets to stay warm under the blankets. If it's too cold where I have on blankets and I'm still cold, then that's when I'm going to turn on my stove. And yes, I do sleep with my stove on, and I have slept with my stove on all night long. It's not a common practice. It's only something I do when I need to do it. But I feel like my van is pretty much, I feel like I still have some ventilation in here, even though even though my van is insulated, I still have a max air fan. You can still hear like the outside noises. So there is some ventilation in here. My back doors, your doors are not sealed all the way tight. I feel like I still have some ventilation in here. So I have slept in my van overnight with my stove running all night long. And I have not had a problem, and I have woke up the next morning. So let me show you guys my stove. I did sleep last night in my van, and the night before that all night long with my stove on, and I had one burner on. So this is my stove, you guys. As you guys know, I have a 4-burner stove, and so last night I just burnt one burner, and then it got really warm and toasty in here. So what I did was, I think this is on like high right now. So if I turn it to my right, it will go all the way down to the lowest that it can go. And so I ran it on that low temperature last night, and I ran it all night long. So right now it is 11:17 a.m. and it is 72 degrees in the van. And let me ask Siri, what is the temperature outside? Hey Siri. What's the temperature?
One sec.
I don't know.
I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again later.
I don't know why, you guys, the area that I'm in right now, I'm not getting that good of a connection. I was just live, and it started buffering and the connection went out. So right now Siri is not telling me what the temperature is. I don't know why she won't tell me what the temperature is. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. So anyway, you guys, yes, that's how I stay warm in the wintertime. And, you know, I use my stove. My van is pretty big, and so I'm not right up on the flames. And if it gets too hot in here, I could always turn it off. I can always turn it down. But I guess everybody is going to do what they feel comfortable with. Some of you guys are telling me you're not comfortable with me using my stove to feel warm with. Some people are not even comfortable with having propane in their vehicle at all to cook with. I am comfortable with having a stove in my van, and it serves dual purposes. I can cook on my stove. I can stay warm on my stove. So I like having a stove in my van. I like being able to have an extra heat source where I didn't have to go out and spend money on a diesel heater or anything of that nature. I have my stove, and as long as it continues to work for me, I am going to continue to use it. But you guys do what you are comfortable with. If you are living in your van, if you're living in an RV, if you're whatever it is that you're living in, if you're living in a camper trailer, do what you feel comfortable with. And you don't necessarily have to do the things that I'm doing, but there's something that we all can do, and that we all should be comfortable with, and that's having enough cover, having on the proper clothing, having on warm attire, bundling up, having on a hat, some gloves, some socks. Like, the clothes that you have on you and the covers that you're gonna use to keep warm is one of the most important things, and the heat source is secondary. The stuff that you're going to use to stay warm and cover up with is primary, and the heat source is secondary, in my opinion. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye now.